a dramatic turn in U.S.-Germany relations, the Pentagon has reportedly cut off communications with Germany. This comes as Washington has moved to reduce its direct involvement in the Ukraine war and in Europe, urging NATO members to play a bigger role in their defense. German Army Chief Christian Freuding says that communication between the Pentagon and the German Defense Ministry have been sharply reduced. The top military officer says he now relies on German diplomats in Washington to find somebody in the Pentagon for basic information about U.S. policy. According to Germany's army chief, the cracks in U.S.-Germany relations are not new. Freuding says the Trump administration freed no warnings to Berlin about its move to suspend certain weapon shipments to Ukraine earlier this year. The United States has traditionally treated Germany as one of its most important European allies. Germany hosts the highest number of active duty U.S. military personnel in Europe. There are about 35,000 soldiers stationed at German bases such as Ramstein and Stuttgart, which serve as staging posts for American operations across Africa and West Asia. Earlier in the year, the U.S. had planned to deploy Tomahawk long-range missiles in Germany by next year. U.S. has vowed development of hypersonic weapons that have a longer range than current capabilities in Europe. After Russia's annexation of Crimea back in 2014, Germany agreed to work toward suspending 2% or spending 2% of its economic output on defense within a decade. But its progress was slow in the years that followed, and President Trump complained in his first term that Germany and other NATO members weren't paying their share. With U.S. widening down activity in Europe, Germany has recognized that it needs to rearm. It is apparently looking beyond the U.S. for air defense weaponry. Reversing its history, Germany is purchasing advanced weapon systems from Israel. It has signed a $4.3 billion defense deal to acquire the Israel-made Arrow 3 air defense missile system. The Arrow 3 system is designed to take out ballistic missiles while they are still outside of the atmosphere. Moreover, Germany is permanently stationing troops beyond its border for the first time since the Second World War. Berlin mulls turning the Bundeswehr, the armed forces of Germany, into the strongest conventional force in Europe by 2029. This after warnings from Defense Minister Boris Pistorius and other officials who claim Russia could attack NATO in the coming years. But Moscow has vehemently rejected these claims as unfounded. It says Western governments are deliberately using the threat of Russian aggression to stoke fear and justify rapid militarization across the European Union. All right, for more on this, we are now being joined by Joachim Bitterlich, former German ambassador to NATO and former European diplomatic and security advisor to German Chancellor Helmut Kohl. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for joining us on WION. So what do you make of this tactical shift on the part of Washington? Is this something temporary, or should Germany be concerned?
I saw the same information, and I think it is strange information in my eyes. First of all, going public on this story, well, I would have never gone public on such a story if there were something. And I try to explain it to myself, and I've been talking to colleagues what they think. Either it's a misunderstanding somewhere, or there is a protocol question because Mr. Freuding has changed his job. He became last week, I think, head of the German armed forces. He's not the German SHOD, but let's say the number 2 in the hierarchy of the most important part of the German army. Perhaps there are protocol reasons or an overcharge of the American side. I think it's strange because normally this relationship between the German army and the American army is a really strong one. You mentioned we have 35,000 American soldiers in Germany, not only in Ramstein and in Stuttgart, but in Wiesbaden and other places. It's a strong relationship grown up over the whole Cold War. And therefore, and the Americans are, let's say, reducing certain troops, reinforcing armament steps, and there is a real cooperation between the two. And therefore, I'm a bit astonished by this, let's call it publication, which could mislead at the end of the day. I don't think there's a crisis between the two. I don't see it.
Very interesting. Ambassador, what about the part about Germany rearming at a pace not seen in decades? What is that about?
Well, please be aware. The German army has been reduced in its, let's say, financial and its military power for the last 20 years. We have been, let's say, believing in Europe in this dividend of peace in Europe. And suddenly, the Russian invasion in Ukraine has destroyed all, let's say, this thinking in Germany. And therefore, this urgent task to rearm the German army, to rearm Germany, and to, in a fast way, in the most fastest way, in order to get the German army again at a normal level. Therefore, for example, the Germans are buying the F-35 plane in the US, and therefore, too, one part is air defense, an important one, and therefore one part of the systems will be the Israeli aero system, which is not only an Israeli system, which has been built up together with the Americans. Don't forget. And there are other parts which will be European, which will be German. And it's, let's say, German army is building up, is becoming again what I call a normal, positive, good army as it has been during the Cold War. This is the aim. And therefore, the German defense minister needs a certain time to bring about, let's say, this adaptation, this, let's call it, a normal future army able not only to defend Germany, but at the same time to fulfill its task within NATO.
All valid points. Ambassador Bitterlich, it's always a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for joining us on WION.